This microphone from FIFINE really impressed me, so stay tuned to find out why. A quick disclaimer on the microphone. I purchased this microphone and the boom arm that you'll inevitably see in the video with my own money from Amazon, and then FIFINE reimbursed me for both the microphone and the boom arm. I was not paid to make this review. I was only reimbursed for the price of the microphone and boom arm, and I am also free to say whatever I want in this review. In addition, the links in the description that you see to the microphone and the boom arm are just links. I do not make any money off of those links if you click and purchase. They're simply just links to the Amazon product pages. So with that being said, let's get into the review. So we're gonna take a look at what comes with the Tank 3. And right off the start, we have a user guide, which is going to come in handy as we're hooking it up to the PC. And next, we have the actual microphone. And then we have a USB-C cable as well. And that's everything that comes with the Tank 3. So this is the FIFINE Tank 3, and this microphone has a full black metal body with metal mesh right here that's covering a built-in pop filter. It also has a microphone gain knob as well as a headphone monitoring volume knob right here and a built-in mute button. On the bottom here we have a USB-C headphone monitoring jack as well as an XLR plug. This arm right here is how it's gonna attach to your setup in terms of boom arms or desk stands. And on the bottom here is a 5/8 threading, and I have both adapters from the boom arm installed so I can easily screw it in. But this arm attaches to the side of the microphone right here, and if I go ahead and unscrew this, we can go ahead and take a look at how this attaches to the microphone itself. So as you can see, it has a rubber, essentially a very thick rubber washer that goes between the arm and the microphone. So let's say you are moving the boom arm around on the microphone. This here is going to help stop sound from transferring through this arm and into the microphone capsule and getting picked up on your stream or your podcast or whatever you're using the microphone for. So great addition there by FIFINE. I am not super fond of the way the arm is shaped and the way it interacts with the microphone itself, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it does its job and it does it pretty well, so not too many complaints there. Let me get this attached back to the microphone so we can go ahead and continue the review. Now this microphone comes in at $89.99. So it is not an extremely expensive microphone, but I will say it has a very premium feel to it. It feels great and it looks great. Excellent work there. I think it feels very premium. So let's get into the actual sound quality of the microphone itself. So to get this mic up and running, all you have to do is plug in the USB-C to the back of the mic and then plug the USB-A to an open port on your system. If you've done both of those things correctly, the mute button is going to light up green, indicating that the microphone has power. Okay, so we're going to be testing audio now on the FIFINE Tank 3. I also have my wireless Go 2 microphone from Rode. It's a lapel mic, and this costs about roughly $300, and it came with 2 lapel mics as well as the receiver, and this cost $89.99. Came with just the mic and the cable. So we're going to go ahead and compare the two audios together, and first I'm going to do a flat EQ on both the wireless Go 2 as well as the Tank 3, and we're gonna say a phrase with the lapel mic, and then I'm gonna say the exact same phrase with the Tank 3 on a flat EQ. I'm not going to make any edits in my video editing software on the EQ of the microphone. So the phrase that I'm gonna say for testing is "Thank you for subscribing to Tectonic Systems," and I'm gonna do it on the lapel mic first, and then I'll go ahead with the Tank 3. Thank you for subscribing to Tectonic Systems. Thank you for subscribing to Tectonic Systems. So in the editing software, I'm not going to make any changes to either of those audio tracks. And I'm now going to go back and listen to those tracks and see what the difference is for myself. Thank you for subscribing to Tectonic Systems.
Thank you for subscribing to Tectonic Systems.
Wow, so the first thing I'm noticing, obviously I know this from my EQ, but the lapel mic, it tends to pick up one channel more than the other, so I edit it into a mono channel so that it sounds equal across both speakers. And then I also put probably around 4 different EQs on it to change the different levels, cut out some of the frequencies that sound bad. And the Tank 3 sounded 10 times better just from the original unedited EQ.
Systems. Thank you for subscribing to Tectonic Systems.
It's just so much better. I wouldn't, like, I almost don't even feel like I would need to EQ that. I do want to play around with the EQ a little bit, but that sounds like my voice in person coming through the microphone versus the lapel mic. So I'm blown away by how good this microphone sounds out of the box, plugged directly into my computer through USB, no EQs at all. It sounds really good. So excellent microphone from what I can tell right now. So in the editing software, I'm not going to make any changes to either of those audio tracks.
Thank you for subscribing to Tectonic Systems.
So in the editing software, even the EQ'd and edited lapel mic, obviously it's not going to sound as good as this, but the difference is incredible. I mean, it's just night and day difference to me.
So overall, the sound of the Tank 3 is incredible in my opinion. And I'm going to run a couple tests here involving background noise. I have a mechanical keyboard, and I want to see if that bleeds over into the Tank 3 naturally. And then I'm going to change some settings in SteelSeries GG, some audio software I use for channel selection and EQ that is super easy to use, and see if I can clear that up a little bit if it is present. So the Tank 3 was picking up my mechanical keyboard, and you're not going to get around hearing background noise from a microphone. It's just, is it going to be excessive? And I don't think that it's super excessive with the Tank 3. It is designed to be spoken into the front of the capsule, although it is going to pick up some surrounding audio from your background and different areas. As you can see, you can still hear my voice even around the sides of the microphone. So it's not going to be only directional this way. It does pick up surrounding sounds. Now, FIFINE does not have their own software to use, which is both good and bad, because if you don't have software like SteelSeries GG, you're going to be picking up that background noise, and there's not going to be a whole lot of ways to change it. But it's easy to use because there's no software to use. A lot of times this type of software can be very iffy, and a lot of times people are not going to want to jump into something like OBS Studio and start creating different audio settings and really getting into things. A lot of, people like to plug and play, which that's what this microphone does. And in terms of plugging and playing, I did experience a little bit of issues conflicting with SteelSeries GG, so I was using this software prior for my headphones, and when I plugged the microphone in, I was not able to get any audio out of my headphones. I spent about an hour troubleshooting it, and I ended up having to reinstall SteelSeries GG, which is not a huge deal. I repaired my headset to the base station, and then everything started working appropriately. So you may experience a little bit of conflict and channel selection problems depending, but if you can't figure it out, go ahead and try reinstalling whatever software you're using, and it should continue to work as designed. So everything is working perfectly now. Can't really say that's a negative, just something that you may experience and have to go through if you do end up purchasing the Tank 3. Now, if you noticed, There are some plosives that are coming through, and plosives are those low booms or lower rumblings that you hear during certain word pronunciation. Plosives is going to be one of those words that has that noise to it. And since FIFINE doesn't have its own software that they've developed to go along with their microphones, which is one of the reasons they're going to be lower cost, is they don't have to pay into developing software like that, you're still going to hear those plosives through this microphone. But there are other free programs and other things that you can download to reduce those. But out of the box, if you don't and you just plug it in, you use a flat EQ, you're going to hear those plosives. So again, something to be aware of if purchasing this microphone. Not a negative, as every microphone is going to experience that. It's just what software and or physical device like a pop filter do you have to help reduce them. Built-in pop filter on this microphone is doing a pretty good job. It's not going to catch everything, but that's where downloading an extra piece of software is going to come in handy to help reduce that noise in your microphone. One of the things that will help is going to be having some type of noise cancellation, and here I'm using the SteelSeries GG software and using Clearcast AI noise cancellation. It's going to reduce those plosives a little bit. I also have a noise gate to help with background noise a little bit, and then you can also add a compressor here if you want, and this is just going to make your audio level pretty even across the board. So your lowest volume input is going to sound at a similar volume as your highest level input. So it's going to prevent those plosives from sounding extremely loud, whereas your normal voice speaking is going to sound quieter. It's going to even out those if you're using a compressor. So those are some of the things that you can do to reduce that. But overall, you're going to experience that if you don't have extra software that you're using, since FIFINE does not have their own software. Again, can't really knock the product for that because it's not advertised to have its own software. And it is a pretty known thing that microphones will have those plosives and make those noises, and you do have to compensate for that when you're recording or designing your studio. Overall, for $89.99, I think the Tank 3 is an excellent sounding mic. I'm excited to play with the EQ. I'm excited to see what I can do with compressors and high band filters and things like that, so I can get the best sounding voice for myself out of the microphone. I think I'm going to work on that in the background and then create a video on what settings I came up with to use, as I think that might be useful for anyone out there who is using a FIFINE microphone and may not know how to do those things or know what settings to adjust. So keep an eye out for that video in the future. But overall, this microphone is excellent. It for $90, it really blew me away in terms of how good it actually sounds.
All right, so let's jump into a couple negatives that I experienced with the FIFINE Tank 3. One of which is going to be how this arm interacts with the back of the microphone where your plugs are. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the USB port here and show you what I'm talking about. So the clearance on this cable is not much. So if you use a different cable than the one that came with it, which in my case, I actually had to purchase a USB-C cable that was longer so that I could set it up on my desk in the way that I would like to. It had a little bit longer of a sheath here, so when I'm bending this arm up and down, it's going to interact with the USB-C cable and potentially unplug it or bend the connection here. So if this cable had been longer from factory, I wouldn't have experienced that issue. So if you are using this with the provided cable, you're not going to see that, although it does kind of interact with this arm down here on the actual wire part. So I'm not a huge fan of how this arm was designed. I think it could have possibly been designed a little bit differently or in a different location. And then again, with the XLR plug, you can kind of see that it goes right over that XLR plug. So you're gonna have to choose which side you want this arm to be on before you plug in your XLR cable. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to adjust that. So just a little something to think about there with the design. I consider that a negative in how it works, as it does lead to some unintuitive aspects of using the product. But overall, it's nothing crazy. It's nothing to be concerned about. It's just something to be aware of. Now again, the USB-C cable that came with the Tank 3 itself is good quality. I had no issues with it. It was just a bit short. I couldn't get it to route through my desk the way that I wanted to. So I had to purchase a completely separate USB-C cable that was 15 feet versus 8.2, I believe this is. So if there's any recommendation on cable length, as it is a podcast microphone, so I'm not sure if computers are always going to be right next to your setup, maybe including a little bit longer of a cable would be excellent, but nothing that can't be remedied by a $10 purchase off of Amazon of a longer cable like I did solved my issue. So not a huge complaint, just something to think about if you are going to purchase this. It is a little bit of a short cable for setting up and routing a microphone through your desk. The final negative that I had about the Tank 3, while it does come in at $89.99 and is considered a budget microphone, it didn't come with any way to hold the actual microphone. The USB cable is great, the microphone is great, but unless if I'm willing to put some extra money into a desk stand or a boom arm, I'm going to have to hold the microphone like this, which is not necessarily how a microphone is going to be used, especially in a podcast form. So it's hard to say that that's a negative, but it does require you to spend some extra money to get that feature, which is a fairly important feature when it comes to a microphone, as you don't want to be banging the actual body of the microphone while you're holding it or whatever the case may be. And this is a little unintuitive in a way to hold the microphone. It can be done, it's just not super comfortable, and it's going to be a little bit annoying as your podcast goes on or whatever the case may be. If you're streaming games, you're definitely going to need to make that extra purchase. So again, it is a budget microphone, but it does require you to spend that extra little bit of money on a desk stand or a boom arm. In my case, the boom arm was roughly $50, and I believe the FIFINE desk stand is around $20. And it's not a super robust desk stand, but it does get the job done. So all in, you're looking at maybe $110 minimum to get a stand for the microphone and the microphone itself. So just keep that aware as well. So to recap, the FIFINE Tank 3 is extremely crisp and clear. It has great sound quality, it's easy to use, and it's $90. So it really fits into that budget microphone area. It gives you great quality. It feels like a premium product. It looks like a premium product, so it's going to look great on stream or on camera on a podcast. So all in all, this microphone blew me away, to be honest. I was very, very surprised and extremely happy with how the product worked and how it sounded. So if this is something that interests you, you can check out the link in the description below. Again, I don't make any money off of that. I don't make any money off of FIFINE by giving this review. So this is just my own personal opinion, and FIFINE did an excellent job with the Tank 3. But that's all the time I have for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.